Councillor Shepherd, the colour here for that. Thank you.
Tia ki te Māori o te whenua, tuia ki te mana o te tangata, tuia ki te pono, te aroha, kia piki, kia iki, ki te taumata, hui e kai.
Thank you very much. Apologies today. We have reasons our leaders, their mum passed away, so we ended our council councils today. We'll be away probably for the week. Also, Councillor Parker's the round of their apologies. Otherwise, it's a full proclamation. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, now we've got just a slight change in procedure here. We have an urgent late item. 5.7, delegation of decision making on a resource consent, and it's in your supplementary agenda. So what I'll do is I'll bring that conflict of interest before I do that. Any conflict of interest pertaining to the item for that, right? Okay, so I'd like to bring the supplementary agenda forward. Before we, sorry, I'll probably change again. I'll give them a short little confirmation of minutes from the last meeting. It was held on the 31st of October. Do we have any points of clarification on those minutes or any matters arising? No, could I have a mover please for those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Lachlan. Seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right. Down to the supplementary agenda item. And this is, yes. Okay, so we need to move it, just that this item be accepted as a late item. Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Westman. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Okay. We can get on to the item, and we have some guests here today, and it's regarding delegation of decision making on a resource consent application. And we have Mr. Louise Wood here, and also Mr. Nigel McCabe. Welcome, guys. The floor is yours if you'd like to.
Thank you, and thank you for accepting my late agenda item too. I appreciate that very much. So I'm processing a resource consent application at 189 Napier Road, which is opposite Mighty Mega on the corner of the ETA and Napier Road. It's for a large Bunnings warehouse and 3 food outlets and associated parking and access. And it's next to the Clean Energy Centre, if you think of that building. The application requires a cancellation of consent notice, which is on the title requiring compliance with the East Urban Lands land use consent, which is a consent that council holds, and also requires a land use consent and a subdivision consent. So it's kind of three components to this application, all bundled in one application. It was lodged back in May, and it's been on hold for further information and a traffic review, and a few bits and pieces have gone back and forth, and we're finally at a point where we're ready to move forward with the decision making, report writing on my behalf. And we had to think about council is the adjoining landowner to the south and west, and also will benefit quite a lot from the new public road that's being constructed there. And so on that basis, we thought it best to perhaps get the decision making for this application done by an independent commissioner rather than in-house like we normally would. So that's where that's come from. Yeah, it's a bit of a district plan zoning anomaly. This portion of the land is still under the rural environment zone. So under the rural environment, we don't actually have any earthworks limits other than you shall contain all your sediment and dust on site. So they came to us back in April, I think, with their intention to start these earthworks. They own the land, and we checked it out. They provided an earthworks management plan. We checked out the EUL consent. We checked out the rural environment, and at the end of the day, we said, well, you understand it's completely at your risk that you still have to go through a resource consent to do your development, and there's no guarantee of that being granted or otherwise. And they accepted that risk, and we said, yes, it is a permitted activity under the district plan. So they went ahead with the earthworks. Yeah. They also liaise with WRC as well. And yeah.
Collected, I'm just thinking this could be quite sensitive. I think it's really wise to go to a commissioner, but how did we land at that place?
I had a look through the list on the Making Good Decisions NZPI, not sure which website it's on, and we've worked with Anne Nicholas in the past, and she has quite a good understanding of the Taupō context. That's pretty much why.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks, Louise. Nigel, Philip, a couple of questions. One I did have, as Worship was asked, and you've answered that. Thank you in relation to the earthworks, and some people have seen that as being arguably presumptuous, but it's entitled to do it under the existing plan, and I get that. My question is around the district plan changes, 6 of which are in motion at the moment. One we're going to had presented today, but plan change 43, which is a rezoning of industrial land around different parts of the district, includes this specific parcel of land, and that has been subject to consultation, to submissions, and to hearings. And I understand a number of questions on behalf of the commissioners, and this is one that Councillor Westerman sat on, and I didn't. I'm just wondering, how does that fit with this application now, dealing with the same parcel of land, requesting the same or looking at the same outcome in terms of rezoning?
Yep. So
what compromise you might be involved there, if not or not?
Yeah, so it's always open to an applicant to make an application for a development based on the rules as they stand at the moment. So at the moment we have an operative district plan with operative rules, objectives and policies. Despite the fact that there's a plan change that's been notified and it's relatively a fair way through the process, at the moment the rules are what they are in the operative plan. So the applicant's made an application based on those operative rules. It might be at the point when the commissioner comes to consider the application against the district plan rules and objectives and policies, they might have regard to the plan change that is fair way through the process, and they might at that time decide to give some objectives and policies some more weight than they might otherwise have had because of the fact that it's a reasonable way through the process. But in terms of the application as lodged, it was lodged based on the operative rules as they stand at the moment. So perfectly open to the applicant to do that.
I guess so. One more question. So in that case, there is nothing, if what I'm hearing is nothing irregular or out of the ordinary in terms of process in what they have asked for and timing around a district plan change as well.
No, nothing irregular, and it's common that there'll be plan changes that are going through the process, and an application may, in terms of timing, may be made on an operative plan. It may be affected by a plan change that's going through a process. It's nothing irregular about it.
Councillor Weston.
Yeah, I have that same query as well. We sat through that hearing, and a couple of submitters had queried the industrial zone backing on to the end of the EUL residential zone, and the head commissioner, David McMahon, was querying that particular point. And I sort of just going forward, if there were issues with that couldn't reasonably use this, that couldn't be sort of settled, then this resource consent if it's approved, would have that development sitting on an unzoned block of land that's not industrial anymore, do you know what I mean? It still will be, it's rural and it wants to go industrial, but you tend to have two different things going on.
Yeah, I know it is. It's a confusing time for all of us, especially in the planning team. So the resource consent would basically supersede any plan change that comes along, whether it's agreed to be rezoned or not. So that at this point in time, their development is on land that's currently zoned rural. So that's what I'm assessing it under. And at the moment, with all our resource consent reports, we are including a blurb about the plan changes because we have to. And it all depends on how far through the plan change, how far along it's progressed. So the rules and the plan change don't become operative or don't replace the rule until that decision's been released. And even then, we would still be looking at if there's appeals, which there no doubt will be. We'll be looking at the two zones, the current zone and the proposed zone, and then we have to give weight to each one in our assessment. So, yeah, and that all depends on how far along you've gone through that process. So at the moment, there's no decisions on the plan change. So I would be giving pretty little weight to the proposed objectives and policies. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that explains it. It's, yeah.
So on the project had been tabled for the council, but maybe it was at a workshop in of the new council, maybe towards the tail end. I'm sure I was talking about the excess of that, being a bit concerned about how that slip lane may be a bit dangerous in the traffic. You just mentioned traffic review.
Yes.
Obviously come through and it's.
Yeah, so we got the traffic, we got their traffic report peer reviewed by Grey Matter from Hamilton, and they had a lot of back and forth, and they've tweaked things and changed things, and so the secondary access is now going to be left in, left out only. Anyway, the end result is that Grey Matter were comfortable that the effects will be no more than minor, so or can be addressed. Yeah. Yes, it's well. I would. It is a complicated application, but I would say it's quite site specific and contained, and I believe it's all been covered off. And yeah, I think one is probably enough. If we were going to be limited notifying or publicly notifying, then yes, it would have to be. It has to go through a hearing anyway, so it would have to have more than one. I don't want to disclose. We haven't quite made that decision yet. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. In some ways, it might be quite good that it's just she's doesn't live here, so yes, she is. Yeah.
Yeah, you can apply for it.
Mm-hmm.
Way too right, you can apply for it.
Yep.
Doesn't necessarily say you're going to get it. So, you know, that was the whole thing of the original district plan anyway. Quite a bit of anything.
Yeah, it's a very effects-based plan, so yeah.
Cool. Okay. Councillor Fletcher.
Yeah. Just a quick question. I was reading through the panel's recommendations, and there were some that were accepting and others that weren't so much. Is the submission as is, and would there with no potential changes around some of the suggestion made by the panel under Appendix 1?
So I think just on that.
That's an extreme.
Scratching my head then.
independent commissioner, will that make you decide whether you're going to make a public hearing or not?
Potentially, yeah.
It is. I don't know how many times I've been asked
Oh.
about it, and everybody assumes that councillors know exactly what's going on there. Of course,
Sure.
they always do.
Yeah.
And I just was happening to cut something I don't know. I heard it was funny. It's in the story.
Very good. Councillor Taylor.
Your way of a comment, and it's on the back of most of us having received a number of calls or concerns from people. And the reason I asked the questions I did was to get it on the record that there was nothing being done behind closed doors. There is no underhand decisions being made. This is all in the public space, and it's actually according to what the rules allow people to do and the order in which they're enabled to do them. Thank you, Louise and Nigel, for the answers to the question. For that gives me some comfort, because I'd have to say I did have some concerns prior to today.
Very good. Anything to add, Nigel?
No. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Good to see.
No worries. You too.
Sorry. Want to move on and unlock? Having moved, what is the suggested recommendation? Yeah, you happy to move that? Cool. All right. And moved by Councillor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thanks.
Thank you.
Rightio, it's here. We are at 5.1. Yeah. Approval of plan change 39, residential building coverage, decision for notification. Hillary. Good afternoon, Hillary.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be back in front of you talking about the district plan again, because we seem to have disappeared and been speaking to our hearing panel for quite some time. So it's nice to be back. So this is the first decision that we've got, obviously, in our package of 6 plan changes. The others, I'm afraid you'll probably have to be a bit patient and wait until the new year for them. They're going to be released as an entire package together. But this one, because it's quite discrete, it changes one number in our district plan. It bumps the 0 on the end of 30% to 5. So it goes from 30 to 35% for building coverage in our residential environment. So basically means you can cover your section with an extra 5% with a building. So the panel have recommended that it be accepted by council, and then the process from here is that we notify that decision, and then there's 30 working days for any appeals to be lodged. So that takes us quite a while, because there's a big RMA shutdown period in the middle over Christmas, between the 20th of December and the 10th of January, I think it is. So it'll run right through till February before we'll know if we've got any appeals or not. And then once that is finished, we either come back to you straight away if there's no appeals, and you have final right of approval, and then it becomes operative after that, or we move into an appeal resolution process if we have appeals lodged. Yeah, so happy to take any questions.
Yeah, same question again, sorry.
Yeah, so I think, sorry, just remind me, it was just about whether the panel's decision was.
Some of the recommendations, I noticed some were accepted, others not so much.
Yeah.
Changes were made to the submission to appease those that didn't want.
Yeah, so as part of the, yeah, sure. So as part of the decision that any panel has to give on an RMA, in an RMA process, is they have to decide whether they accept or reject submissions. So we obviously had submissions both supporting the plan change and in opposition. So because they have approved the plan change, or recommended that the plan change be approved, essentially everyone who opposed the plan change, their submission is rejected. And there is a response given to that as to why, and there has to be evidence given as to why they've rejected their submission. So that's why they have accepted some submissions and rejected others, because there's always going to be people on both sides of the spectrum with what they've asked for.
within district?
No, it covers our residential environment. So we've got more than just Taupō. We've got residential environments in Turangi, around the lake settlements, Mangakino. So it covers all the residential, just our straight residential environments. Our little difference, I guess, is Kinloch, in that it's got its own special Kinloch residential environments. So it doesn't cover Kinloch because they are not just residential, they are Kinloch residential, and they've got some specific provisions around Kinloch, which were an outcome of the structure planning process. Yes. Yeah, 20. Thank you, Louise. Yeah, so a little bit lower out in Kinloch.
Cool. Councillor Green, sorry.
Thank you, Henry. One of the things that I noted, which submitters commented on also, was with, although you've kept your total still at 50% coverage, one of the things I know that people are concerned across the district, that council is not looking too much further than concrete driveways these days, and more focus on permeable driveways rather than their solid structures is actually more appropriate for a lot of our district. It's one of the things that actually I personally came up against, and I would have preferred to have a permeable driveway, and I know in places like Auckland they are now facing the consequences of non-permeable driveways.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to think that we were actually looking at that a little bit more closely.
Well, you are in the right place at the right time, because the residential chapter is the next, this was essentially a bit of a quick one to try and get through to address an issue, because we've got a huge number of consents that come through for just beyond the 30% coverage. So it was about reducing that impact for people in the community applying for consent, and also a huge workload of a fairly mundane consent for our resource consents teams. What we now need to do, and what we've been very clear about to all our submitters, is that we're going back to our residential chapter to look at the whole lot together. And part of that that we'll be bringing to you very soon is looking at those types of issues, including sustainability and how that's addressed and allowed for under the plan, and as a package, we'll be looking at those provisions.
Like please consents, hopefully a lot of faith in your team. Everyone else happy? Okay, so recommendation up there to approve this plan change 39. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Green, seconded by Councillor Truman. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye against. Carried.
Thank you. Can I just add, sorry, I should have said that I've booked for a notification for Friday week. So that's when it would be go in the papers, and all our submitters would be notified. So then our 30 days starts from there.
Point 2, aligning the rating differentials for setting the general rate for you. Sarah. And then maybe.
Right. So obviously this is a topic we have workshopped before, and I'll largely take the report as read, but I guess I wanted to point out a few things. The purpose of the report obviously is to review the differential rating factors, consider the funding needs of council in line with section 101(3) of the Local Government Act 2002, and consider proposed changes from council officers to address equity of industrial commercial properties where some are assessed on the rating differential of 1.8 and others on the differential of 1. So look, the report gives a lot of background information and probably kind of where we've got to today. But I think the important things to consider is that we are required under section 101 of the Local Government Act to consider the benefits properties receive from council services in relation to each other, and whether they put more burden on services, their ability to pay, and the overall impacts the rates liability has on the needs of the community. So council officers have considered factors relevant in the relevant sections of the LGA, and we're recommending removing the electricity generation and utility assets and network differential rating categories, and including these properties within the industrial commercial differential rating category, so lining up the whole commercial sector. This review is recommended in alignment with the LGA, as the inequitable rating factors are impacting general rates and causing disparities in rates increases. So the disparities have been fairly clear over the last few years, particularly where revaluations on residential property have picked up the rates burden, making rates more unaffordable for the homeowners who are already challenged during this difficult economic environment. So I guess probably the key things I wanted to point out were just the how we've talked about the revaluations having the clear impact on the incidence of rates. So on table 4 of the report, it shows the percentage of general rates paid between the differential rating categories, and then how that's moved over time. So, you know, again, we're in an environment where valuations have gone up significantly on the residential properties, and we need to just, consider that. So that's kind of the key points. Is there anything else you wanted to highlight, Tony? I mean, it is quite a detailed report and with a lot of background information, but we've
Probably one of the things is just to remember that this doesn't mean that the council's going to get more money. It's just going to be distributed differently. Yeah. And I think something that we need to make clear is that we're looking at 1013B, and that's around more around I want to find it and actually say it. It's more about the we're updating the overall impact of the allocation of the liability for the revenue needs on the current and future socio-economic, environmental and cultural well-being of the community as per section 1013B. So we're looking at 1013, there's A and B, and we're specifically looking at B more so than A, and to make this change. And we want to sort of make that clear. Sarah read out the A.
No, so that's what the report's proposed, because no decision has been made on whether to progress this any further. So when if council make the decision today, then we will go and discuss as a first point of contact, giving them plenty of time to feed into the LTP process.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Williams.
Table 4, the actual percent of generation, I think that the generation basically really hard, and people use something.
Yeah, agree.
Because the products depreciate, or the capital value of their
it's just the split of the valuations across the district. So they're not valued the same as residential, obviously, in other commercial, to be fair, but they've gone up. Residential have gone up significantly in comparison.
higher. Things will come down.
Relatively, yeah.
All right, any other questions? No? So, okay, no changes to that? It's all good? Moved by Councillor Williamson, seconded by
A quick question before you go any further. I knew the question I had, the disadvantage, risk of a legal challenge. Is there a risk of legal challenge, do you believe?
So whenever we propose to change differentials, there's always a risk of a legal challenge, and that's why we're proposing to get direction today and go and speak to them as a means of ensuring the best outcome. Yeah, so
have you done this before elsewhere?
So it was proposed that I was going to write a letter, but I'm happy if it wants your name on it.
They're good friends.
Mm.
We've done for a lot of our people.
Yeah.
And every down.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Previously, I think it's okay. Moved by Councillor Linton, seconded by Councillor Greenslade. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Julie, 5.3, Taupō District's performance report from October.
Here as well. I just the report I've just read, but did also want to highlight really from October onwards, we've just been highlighted in lots of different awards. So obviously the report talks about a number of events that are hitting in October. They're all community awards, the airport award, aviation. Was the ombudsman was the which thank you to the governance team for the work that they did in that. And then of course since the report came out, and the other things. So it's the chance to highlight perhaps what's occurred over the last 2 years. In terms of, aside from that, I just also wanted to just highlight a couple of team things. Next week we are doing a war example. There's some I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Jane for her support in terms of playing that role on being in the recruitment period. And also just wanted to say thank you to welcome Renee, who's here as our overseas exchange from as well. So they're slightly off the motor report. Take opportunity to tell things there. Happy to take comments or questions in the first part. Acknowledge that mine's an intro section and then there's a section for each of the GMs, but perhaps if we can put those together and we can put it
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jess. No, any questions earlier?
I'm going to go straight.
So any questions or comments on the section, my section or the GM section? And if not, we'll move into the next part of
Brilliant.
Kia ora koutou, everyone. I will take the finance report as read. However, I just wanted to highlight that our expenditure continues to track very close to budget. So everyone's doing a sterling job of managing that. We also have a request for additional funding to enable us to pay risk pool. There's some information in the item about what that's about. So that's our request for additional funding so that we can fulfil our obligations to risk pool. Our capital investment, there's a different graph in there again. The graph is now comparing actual with annual plan and forecast, and the forecast has obviously got Bellwave included in that. That's why it's more than the annual plan. And the TEL update, we have now, by the 4th of December, we would have transferred $18.8 million cash to Forsyth Bar for investment, which is about a third of the cash of the fund. And we're still on track to hand over or to give them all of the cash by April next year. So I'm open to any questions. I'm sure you've got some on risk pool. Oh, good. Yep. Shareholder, yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yes, correct. Yeah. So we've benefited from the fund over time as well with various claims. So they're just still tidying up some residual claims.
All right, any questions of Jeanette? Councillor Lachlan.
Just on the graph for the capital investment performance. So the actual is the actual to October, Is the annual plan and the forecast what you're expecting to the end of October as well, or is it a whole year?
Whole year.
Have you been happy with the process with the TDL funds as it was described? Like we had explained it was going to be a very smooth process. Has that been the outcome? Have you been satisfied that what you were promised has been delivered?
Yes, so it's probably early days yet, but whenever we have a term investment mature, we just pay the money over and know that it's coming. They have divested some of our shares and purchased other shares. So they've got all the shares now. So I think probably the end of this month we'll get a much better view of where everything's sitting.
Yeah, and through the chair, they helped us a lot during the audit process because we were struggling to get confirmation of investment fund from our previous fund manager, and they did a lot of work for us around that, which was pretty good of them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the weekend.
Just on the changes, the end of year forecast, I note that there's an increase in rates allocated there at 1.164 million.
Yep.
So how did that come about?
That was the
Yeah. So through the chair,
Sarah can explain.
that
Yeah.
was a combination of rates growth that was higher than our annual plan number, but the big chunk of that came from the additional power plant coming on board. Of contacts. So
I think it was explained about 2 meetings ago.
yeah. So that was the majority of the contact new power plant.
Right, research, new residential location, and very good. Nothing else for tonight? No, thank you, Denise. Good to see you. I'm so pleased that you're so pleased that you're being online or on watching space. So that's good news because there's some horror stories elsewhere. So thank you for people checking that and the funny thing. Okay, for now.
Tēnā koutou, council, officers and guests. Obviously, as we lead into Christmas, there's a number of interesting activities happening around capital delivery. And before I dive into the detail of the significant projects report, which is fairly cut and dried, I just thought I'd let you know what's going on in the wings. We're currently working with our procurement lead, Steph Rugg, and she's refreshing the supplier panels. You might remember about 3 years ago, around the time of the Shovel Ready funding, we set up 3 supplier panels to essentially pre-qualify a number of local and more broadly nationwide suppliers so that we could more effectively and quite efficiently partner with these people to deliver our capital program. So it's now time leading into the LTP to refresh those. And we ran an information session yesterday for those members that could attend in person, subsequent to one that we ran earlier in the year in July. And it was really interesting, some of the feedback that we've had from them. Majority of it very positive, but obviously we have taken on board some of their feedback around how things might work in other councils on the supplier panel front, and leading into, a slightly different environment with different inflationary pressures, etc. So that's something that we're doing around the same time as the LTP to be prepared to deliver that capital program.
They should be.
Yeah, actually, Steph and myself probably get the majority of those contact calls. They come in via service requests, or people just directly give us a quick bell and we take down their details so that when we send out the information via Tenderlink or Gets, they can be in the running. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Absolutely.
Do we still have that time, if my memory serves me correctly, we have waiting for local people?
The localism component. Yep. Yep. Actually, what we talked about yesterday was supplier diversity as well. I don't know if anyone's here is familiar with Amotai, but obviously it's essentially a partnering component. So the actual detail of the new panel will come out in probably February timeframe, and that might change the localism component, but we're still working through that detail. Yeah. don't actually know. Can definitely.
So can I jump in?
Yeah.
Through the chair. So I believe if you're talking about the procurement guidelines, that's where the original local weighting was provided. So that has now shifted in some instances to what's called it's broader outcomes.
That's right.
It's called broader outcomes. The feedback we've got from contractors and consultants is that's quite confusing. And so one of the aspects that we're trying to simplify in the refresh of the procurement policy is defining that more precisely and actually strengthening and reinforcing the local component, which in the past has received quite broad support.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, thanks.
It's certainly something we can come back and provide a little bit more detail on, because I know many of you know people in the district who'll be interested in being involved. Secondly, you may have heard we've also recently set up a portfolio control team, which has membership from across council offices. And the purpose of this group is really to ensure a certain standardised level of quality for projects moving through what we call the project management methodology. So from initiate, which is basically fresh off an LTP, all the way through to close. And we've had a few meetings, and it's a really interesting and useful learning process. And it means that we've had the opportunity to investigate further some level of detail into projects that are moving from one stage gate to the next. I just wanted to assure you that it doesn't replace your role on steering groups, should you be involved, or sponsors or project managers, but it just provides an extra level of due diligence for projects. At the moment, we're just focusing on the significant projects, so the same ones you see here. And finally, the PMO team, supported by our asset managers, are currently refreshing the forecasts for the capital program delivery, which is further to Jeanette's graph in her section, just so we can more clearly understand what's going to happen over the next couple of quarters after Christmas, and give you a slightly more updated commentary, I guess, on where we're going to be at the end of the financial year. I guess it has highlighted some delays, which you'll see in this report in terms around delays in delivery. A couple of projects here, just going into the detail: Tauhara Ridge Reservoir and Airport Connection, and also the Taupō Wastewater Treatment Plant Primary Clarifier, are currently delayed because of design delays. And that is partly due to resourcing in this district at the moment. But what we're doing with this wider reforecasting group is to figure out roadblocks and identify a way so that we can perhaps reschedule some projects to bring forward those ones that don't have design delays.
What sort of resources? What are we lacking at?
Designers.
Design.
Yeah, so external consultants. So going into the detail of the significant projects, I won't go through them all, but there's a couple of changes. Obviously, I mentioned Tauhara Ridge and Taupō Wastewater Treatment Plant. Obviously, OD Park, for anyone involved in the steering group there's a lot of work has gone into refining the scope, which has provided a little more budget certainty. So scope and cost are now green. For the Mangakino lakefront upgrade, the new sewer system design is complete, so scope is now green, moving into the LTP for next year. There's obviously additional changes that you would have already heard about regarding the LTP timeline and the EUL. And finally, the View Road land disposal site expansion, we're now integrating with our SCADA system, and that's taking a little longer than planned, but will be for a great result. Any questions?
Just in regards to the Kinloch drinking water standards, is there any risk to human health with that root sitting there?
Through the chair, I am able to answer that question. So the Kinloch drinking water standards project is to add protozoa barriers to remove cryptosporidium from the water. That's the aspect of the upgrade that hasn't been completed yet. All other aspects of treatment are still continuing. So the risk to human health is purely from protozoa, which is a known risk, and it's one that we're addressing. But I just wanted to clarify that it's not all of the treatment processes that are being constructed at the moment. It's purely just the protozoa barriers. I don't know if that answers the question, Councillor.
Yeah, it answers it.
Well, thank you. Any other questions on for now? And the projects. Huh? Thank you very much. Brian. Yeah. Oh, Councillor Lachlan, you happy to move that? Recommendation, thank you, 182. Moved by Councillor Lachlan, seconded by Councillor. All those in favour, please say aye. Carry. Very good, moving on. 5.4. Adoption of meeting schedule for 2024.
Sure. Okay. So as you can see from the calendar, we've put together the meeting schedule for next year. One thing to note is that somehow an extra Taupō Airport Authority meeting ended up on the 12th of August. So I'm proposing to remove that. It is not required. And then it was just to point out that some of the meetings will be moving around as per what they did this year. So, for example, the Mangakino-Pouakani, the Taupō East Rural, and the Tongariro rep group meetings will move around to different locations. So we will confirm those. And also the Turangi Co-Governance Committee will most probably go to Te Matapuna, just being a bigger space and more suited to that. Further to this, we also have had requests from certain groups for evening meetings. So the Taupō East Rural rep group and the Kinloch rep group will have 2 meetings in the evenings, and they will be over daylight savings. So one in the sort of February time and one in November time. And again, all of this will be in the calendar. So yeah, happy to take any questions.
Councillor Greenside.
Thank you, Karen. One of the things I noticed that the Turangi Co-Governance Committee has now been scheduled to meet every month, unlike the other representative groups. And I'm just wondering how that fits in with our budget.
Okay, so Livy, are you happy to take that one on?
Yeah, sure. Kia ora koutou. Ina mana ina reo, rangitira mā, tēnā koutou katoa. So just supporting Karen with this one as I kind of look after some of the rep groups. So the request for the Turangi Co-Governance Committee to meet more frequently was a request of the committee. This committee is a little bit different to the representative groups in that the work plan is guided by the mana whakahono and also the committee work plan. So there had been some discussions, and you may have not been a part of that discussion, Councillor, around doing the workshop and the meeting in the same day because of the amount of work that's going through. From a budget perspective, there is a budget for it. Obviously, we had banked on doing bi-monthly, but also being very aware of the workload would need us to be able to do workshops and the formal meetings.
So it will involve workshops and a meeting each month. It won't be just workshops 1 month and then a meeting. So they will be actually having a meeting every month, an official meeting every month, unlike the other representative groups across the district.
That's correct.
The only comment that I would make here on this one is that I would like to request that these meetings, which are scheduled, stay on the scheduled days. I've had representation from people who work full time, who've put aside their hours and commitment for their community service, and they cannot change these sorts of days. I mean, it's unacceptable, I think, to expect people who work full time to do that. You wouldn't be able to do it, and we can't expect other people in the community to do that. It's different for us. We're able to manage. our diaries better, but they should stay on the days that they're scheduled for.
Through the chair, we will envisage, and please feel free to jump in, Karen, we'd envisage the formal meetings and the workshops will stick to the schedule as per presented. Any other meetings that are required by request from the committee or the rep group, sometimes because of exactly as you've mentioned, different schedules, we will have to do them on a different day, just simply to get the biggest, I guess, to get quorum and to get the most number of people there. But we are aware that that does mean sometimes, unfortunately, some people won't be able to make it.
The concern more is the date, to be honest.
Yeah.
And sticking to the schedule, because when people put their hand up for service and the committee's on a day, it cannot go to someone's employment situation. So they've changed it. It's different for us. We can do that. But understand that I would counsel very strongly not to do that.
I think that schedule the meetings now. You're right, I like it, I will know.
Yes,
All of us.
absolutely. It would be great if there's been changes that's not expected. It's great. It would be great.
So, thank you. Right, that's a lot of fun.
Not everybody can move their meetings recently. So this is a low level technical question. So how far ahead do you actually put these in our calendars, known as placeholders?
Yeah, so should it be adopted today, within the next few weeks before we break for Christmas, we will put the whole year in. Yeah, you will get loads of notifications. You'll be sick of seeing my name in your inbox.
2 iPads, I'll be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was particular things like LTP hearings, just placeholders, even if we haven't exactly fine-tune the times and stuff like that. And our social lives around.
Sorry, I know I was nervous and introduced me to the committee that's in Dana. They come to the help parent and watch this in. It's been cool. All right, any other questions?
Happy to be.
Thank you, Councillor. Conceded by Councillor Brendan. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carry.
Thank you.
5.5 council engagement, appointments and training conference opportunity. Yes.
Hi, here I am again. So there are a couple of changes. So we've added in a long-term plan workshop, which is on project and budgets for the 7th of December. And it's a big one. So it's 9:15 to 3:30. And you will, correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, but there will be lunch provided in a working lunch sort of setting. Just because we're expecting you all day. The other change was on the 14th of December, the closed performance monitoring group meeting has now changed to a start at 11:15. So it is an hour later than the agenda item. And that's all I had. I don't know if you had anything to add, Julie.
I think retrospective Duncan's attendance.
Correct.
All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carry. Portfolio update. When you go. Christine, you have to report.
Yes, just a couple of quick things. I had a briefing from Chris Johnson on the progress at Wairua House, and we've got tenants in there, and we've got a manager starting soon, and they're expecting a lot more activity. Unfortunately, we had a little break-in, which was okay. Yes, we did. Not too much damage done, not too many things taken, but that's the last thing we need. That was just a couple of days ago. Yeah, unfortunate and such a useful new facility, but progress has been made there, and that's great. And I was really pleased to be part of at least one of the interviews for
DGLT, and I look forward to the future. We talent on the video, and that's really positive. And of course, the thing that's come out of that a lot of people are talking about at the moment is our desperate need for a 4- or 5-star hotel, or 2 or 3 or 4 of them. So yeah, listening to those discussions and looking at how we might achieve that is really interesting and very, very important to our economy and our future tourism. So we have to find a way. But there are already discussions about it, but that's something that is just desperately needed. We're missing out on the high spending tourists because we just haven't got the accommodation available, and that's a real shame.
Just FYI, I can't really I'll find the beaches and the Turia, he says Turia, like, and they have an outstanding contribution, you know, they have the help of the scene from all the staff there. That special point, the as
the staff are doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, it's 40 Angela.
Yeah, it's been a really good month actually for sporting. I attended the Sports Advisory Council Sports Awards the first week of November. Again, a wonderful occasion, and there's just so much sport in the district. It was really pleasing and a really, really lovely event to attend, and I was very honoured to present the 2 youth awards, and both of those categories, male and female, were so well represented. 18 young women and 11 young men. All of them were, you know, national level at least, and many were at international level. So that's really pleasing. There was also the sports community grants distribution this month, well oversubscribed, like 100% oversubscribed. So some difficult choices made there, but that's all been subscribed, and I believe everybody's been notified that doesn't count. Nicole Vandekay was inducted into the Wall of Fame at the AC Bars today, so I was there to help her unveil her picture. And I've had a bit of an update from the Rapid Sports Cooperative on how they're tracking there with their potential build of a new facility. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses and how we might be able to support that in the future going forward.
Thanks, Rick. Karen, you've done technology. You think you're something too?
Yeah, sure. I'm not too sure if it aligns with my portfolio, to be fair, but obviously it aligns to my responsibilities as a councillor. So I was privileged enough to sit in on the Te Arawa River Iwi Authority co-governance suite that was held earlier this month. The big issue being around the golden clam impact it's having environmentally. So it was nice to hear a bit of extra comms on that this morning around working in conjunction with other entities to ensure the comms out there about keeping our fish waterways as safe as possible. The Tongariro representative who was held in Māori, one of the biggest issues that I think our communities brought up was around better communication with the Taupō District Council. So we'll be working with staff with the hope of trying to involve our smaller communities around the lake to ensure that they're staying up to date with what we're up to throughout the year. Destination Great Lake Taupo had a one-on-one meeting with General Manager Jane Wilson around their branding, sub-brands, the traffic to their website, and also the importance of telling stories, more importantly, the Māori narratives of our beautiful district. So that was really great hui. Was lucky enough to head down to Wellington for the Te Maruata Whakahaere hui. We spoke about navigating through the new coalition. We had the opportunity to catch up with local government New Zealand President Sam Borton, and we also talked more about co-governance Māori Woods and also Te Tiriti o Waitangi with potential changes around the coalition. And a big thank you to the Taupō District Council for approving me to attend the young elected members meeting, which will be next week. Really keen on establishing a Taupō District Rangatahi advisory panel, as I like to call it, the TDRAP. I don't think it's working as an acronym, but we'll figure something out. But it's important, I think, that our rangatahi are across everything that we do within our district, from health to housing to business to economy. So the idea of having an advisory panel of rangatahi available to talk to a whole host of different entities, whether it's better social outcomes, better holistic outcomes, better environmental outcomes, that you have a group of rangatahi that you can turn to, that are a representation of the vast variety of people and representatives that we have within the district. So being able to share that with fellow young elected members at next week's conference, it's quite a high priority for me. So looking forward to that. And thank you for that. So,
Yes, thanks, Karen. Kirsty, anything? Legal or agent disability?
Yep, so agent disability, who was supposed to be tomorrow, but it's been cancelled unfortunately. So nothing to report there, but in Mangakino we attended a lunch for a life membership for Hayden Ditchburn and Margaret Thompson, and also a merit certificate for Lynn Brown. And we had one of these Philip Wilson there, who won the rowing 8 event in the 2020 Summer Olympics. So he's a son of our locals. So he spoke, but the mayor and I attended that. And also we had the I Love Taupō rebranding who were in the event.
Thanks, Lucy. John, any from the arts?
Which is going to be quite month. We been with portfolio, but I just want to say I apologize and pick it up the movement report for updates and rest, but very quickly that sort of thing with them. Certainly was my fault. Second, misunderstanding those on that. I did have one on Saturday. Saturday, so I found that I mean, it's been on product on that probably as well.
Thanks, John. Danny?
Your worship. So we had the scheduled final strategic leadership group for kids screening Taupō at the beginning of November. We sort of scheduled that before I went on leave. I've been just finalising the work on the strategic plan, and otherwise it was a review on another very successful year, and it was quite nice to have councillors still in the attendance as well. So very focused on that group. Nothing else to report.
Thank you, Ben. Kevin? Anything? No, nothing to report. It's not good. Okay, thank you.
Just new ministers in this sector. There's now 17 backgrounds in central government, so it'll be interesting to see that all of those sectors.
And Minister of Agriculture? Very good. Keep on. Anything from Laura or baby?
Sat through Laura House meeting. Taylor, who's been here for a few years. She's got up to Auckland, and we're doing him over to tomorrow next week. I understand Kate's on the board in the meantime. We did I did tune into Zoom into the Rangitiki River Forum. It was on for a couple of hours. It was really interesting to see and hear what's going on around the table at Whakatane there. And this one.
Oh, and I think standard myself, in quite an extensive activity range of activities I've been up to, senior product giving, here, for fireworks, flying, sub opening, the role of GMP actually gathering a bit of momentum, and I think that's you've seen all the activities wiring here resort from Jonathan Lithgow and Jeffrey Rush. Found by famous. I explained in the last movie I watched, which was Titanic. Can you say? Anyway, community play group, which is down by the Kura, down by the river. Fantastic little play group down there. Armistice Day, brass band, Irish Day Christmas lunch with Kirsty. Down at Manga, and of course there's a couple of life members out there. One tea, lovely to have our exchange staff members with us. Total parasail, which has been sold to the Kiwi. You've got a car business arm, is that right then? Yeah. And we launched that our existing business into new ownership. Chris Jolly outdoors took us out on the lake. Lake cycle club, which I believe was a success, which is great. We good to see the numbers and all that sort of thing. We did simple. And then there's a set whamea help on adventures and launch party, but certainly there's a lot of, I feel there's a lot of possibility out there. Tourists are coming back, regional starting to get a bit better. People are pretty positive about the transformation and changes, and it's been Turangi. I was in the Turangi first thing Sunday morning actually, visiting various bakeries and what have you, and just actually looking really beautiful down there. So I was under the sand of the thing that's looking at, but after that, I've got to spend a bit of time with the so we've got the various Christmas parades coming up now. Hopeful Christmas parade on Saturday. If anyone wants to open the car with this. And of course, it's a bit of it's always a road closure. So always mixed with I think they're great for the kids when you see this one on the kids' face. Thank you, really nice. So on Saturday afternoon, we enjoy Christmas in the park.
Saturday.
Saturday. As I said that, I'm not saying.
Would you like me to report?
Oh, sorry, Sam. Oh, God. Very good. But, oh my God, I'm so sorry about that. There you go.
Well, I have spoken out because I represented the Taupō District at the Kid New Zealand Beautiful Awards in Wellington on the 9th of November, which of course is old news now, but not really, where we won the Kiwi Choice Award for last year. Turangi was the runner-up in the most beautiful small town, and of course, the Supreme Award went to Taupo. I went with some very lovely staff, came with me, and Kitaki and who's the co-chair of the governance group, and we had an extremely nice evening. And I have to say, the one thing about it was really lovely was the reaction of other districts, other councillors, other mayors that were here. They were very, very congratulatory towards all of us, and they all came over. So that was nice. Like, it was acknowledged that it was a really well received award. That was actually really great. On Saturday, the 11th of February, I went to the Turangi Fire Brigade Honours Evening. Farewell for Chief Fire Officer Taupo-Kaingaroa, former Taupō District Councillor. Tom had been CFO for 21 years. You wouldn't think he was old enough, would you? And he'd already served 25 years of service at the brigade. Tom has gone on to have a professional career with Ben's, and Turangi's loss is most definitely there again. But I have no doubt that Tom will continue to serve them with the same commitment he served Turangi for 25 years. As Karen said, the Tongariro Rep Group met in Omori, and actually it was really good to see community members turn up there as well too. After that, I went to the Takani Stream Restoration AGM, a very committed group of locals who are looking after the Takani Stream, and a lot of just, it's the old story, backroom work going on, people quietly getting on, the community just doing really, really good things. On Friday, I went to the National Trout Centre. They had their end of year do, and they welcomed many locals and stakeholders have supported them out there throughout the year. They acknowledged Taupō District Council's partnership agreement, and they are doing extremely well with the new education program that they've got running here at present with Kate Green and Doug Simmons are running that, and it's been extremely well received across the country. A lot of schools are using it, but they also said they'd love to see more of you more often. Not looking at anybody in particular. Just they'd love to see more of you more often, come down here and make yourself known to them, because we do support them financially. Just as an aside, the Turangi Garden Club held their biennial garden ramble on Saturday and Sunday, and it rained the whole entire weekend. They had 150 visitors and took note from where everyone was from. People came from all over the North Island to those gardens. It was really amazing. There were more visitors than there were locals, actually. But that was a real credit to those people, huge amount of work. I attended the DGLT Love Taupō Destination Brand Review, which has been going on for the past 2 years. And like Christine said, and yourself, worship, they should be congratulated for their huge commitment to the process and all the work that's gone into it. And that will probably be all very interested to see the report that they bring back to us. I will make particular mention of Jane Wilson, who has worked incredibly hard. She worked amazingly. The Turangi Sports Foundation held their AGM on the 21st of November. Peter Boyd, staff in community engagement, attended that meeting along with me, and Peter was very, very good working with Leslie and Brian Hardesty in that group. There's a lot of things going on in that space. The Omori people held their Christmas dinner on Friday the 24th at the Omori Hall, and they couldn't hardly fit all the people in that turned up. Motuaka residents and ratepayers held their AGM on Saturday the 25th. They also had an excellent turnout. Taupō District Council's Hayley Nicholson presented to them on civil defence, and that was extremely well received by the community. And only I'm ending on a bit of a sad note. The S128 review of Mercury's Waikato hydro consent, which came up for review, had been turned down for public hearing by Waikato Regional Council, much to the dismay of the residents of the Southern Shores. And we were hoping that they would be able to at least have their say in public. The Erosion Committee for the Omori Ratepayers Association was going back and having a very, very close look at what came out from Mercury and seeing if there is some sort of appeal process that they could go through. I think it was just people just disappointed that they couldn't have their say, which is what they would have liked to have done. And outside of that, after the lights were turned on Robert Street by His Worship the Mayor on Saturday night, there wasn't a single place in a restaurant to be had, which was very disappointing. We finally managed to come into it. Town was buzzing, everything was a crowd. We knocked out to members. I squeezed it in at a little table at the back out. The place was heaving, which was different. Yes, I know. Local challenge, yes, exactly. Freezing cold night.
Australia. That's really accommodated.
Not bad. And it was, I have to say, you know, one of the things that they thought through was the fact that they were able to stop the trucks from coming through while the cycle challenge was on for all day that day, which really was, you know, that credit to whoever managed to get that done, because it obviously made a huge difference. People you really
We need to really have to be helped.
today.
No, the other day.
No, there were plenty today. Because we've got half an hour wait just about on the roadworks in the Taha to be able to present. So I need to tell about 4:08 this morning to get here by 9:30. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Sorry. Okay, last again. Sorry, yeah, what's that? Yeah, it's that festival. Yeah, okay. Can we have a mover, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Councillor, please say. Seconded by Councillor Fletcher. All those in favour, please say aye. Yes. Carry. Okay, that's it. It's the public part of the meeting. We'd like to move it. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Yes. Right.